Hey everybody, I'm Barney Taylor. Welcome back to In the Record Room, the YouTube show that is all things vinyl and all things soul. And guess who's here with me today? DJ, collector, promoter, dancer, and all-round honourable gentleman, Tony Hanlon. Tony, welcome to In the Record Room. How are you this afternoon?
I'm very good, Barney. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I'm thrilled that we've got you on the show because I just am so enamored with the stories and the relationships that people have with vinyl and with each other. Now, we've known each other a relatively short time, I think 3 or 4 years, but I know that your relationship with the soul scene goes back a long time. And so that's why I was so excited to get you on the show, because I'm just going to ask you to talk about your experiences, share your 3 records. Before I do that, though, for anybody watching, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please could you do so. It means that every time an episode drops, and they're going to be dropping regularly, you'll never miss out on one. And what's not to like about that? So that's my pleading bit over. Also, if you like any of Tony's records or want to comment on any of his choices, please leave your comments below the video. And again, that will further the conversation. So with all that being said, Tony, where did it all begin for you?
I presume it starts in when I was back in secondary school, and about 81, 82. Around that time, everybody was either a mod, a skinhead, a punk, a new romantic, or a rude boy. I choose to be a rude boy. First album I think I ever bought was The Specials. And then I bought the Work, Rest and Play Madness EP, the Night Boat to Cairo.
Yeah.
So that really got me into it. And then the clothes as well, the Harrington jackets, stay pressed trousers, the tassel loafers, the whole gear. So everyone in school had a Harrington jacket.
Yeah.
It actually got to the stage that in our school that they were confiscated with so many of them.
Oh, really?
The teachers wouldn't let us wear them anymore because they were like a uniform.
Yeah.
It became a uniform, black and red.
Yeah.
Then I was in school, and then, as I said, the mod scene as well was kind of around the same time, 79, 80. So you had all the mod bands. I know you spoke about it already. The Jam, but mainly Secret Affair, the Lambrettas, stuff like that. I was listening to that as well. But yeah, still, I was a rude boy. I was into the ska. Ska was the big thing for me.
Yeah,
the Madness, the Specials, the Beats, Selector, Body Snatchers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Bad Manners. It was what I liked about it is you could dance to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But even going back even further, I think about 77, 78, as you know, was the punk scene.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge, monumental thing in music around the world, but particularly in the UK, as you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sex Pistols, when they released the album, Nevermind, you know what? It was absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, that was just a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then you had the Buzzcocks in Manchester as well. So you had a lot of the new wave kind of bands.
Yeah.
They were harping back to the 60s, but they were also using reggae, like the Clash used reggae.
Yeah.
And they used a bit of ska, you know, Toots and the Maytals, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was all coming together. And it's amazing how it just all comes together. Music just comes together. It's all, you know, there's good music and there's bad music, as you said before. And so I just start listening to all the original stuff that the ska artists were playing, like Funky Man. I thought, wow, this goes back further and further and further. But also, as I said, the mod thing was such a big thing at the time. We had Quadrophenia, of course, and everyone wanted to be Jimmy, or everyone wanted to be staying on the scooter in the Lambretta or Vespa. We all did. Everyone had a parka. That was another thing. A parka was another staple uniform in school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the thing is, as you know, people judge you by what clothes you wore, what music you listened to, by what the clothes you wore.
Yeah, because you could tell instantly the way someone was dressed, what their music would be into.
Yeah. Well, you tell that to your, even tell to my own kids, my own lads. They just laugh at you, you know. It just doesn't mean anything to them because there's no tribes anymore.
No, not in the sense that you're describing, but also the beauty is that this is still how we are today. So, I mean, you probably still own or wear a lot of the things, you know, lovely looking Fred Perry there, those kind of things. So the fact that there's no tribes today is even more astonishing, that so many people like yourselves and many other people I know still pursue these kind of tastes and likes, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the next thing was that you know, ska was kind of dying out. You know, two-tone was kind of dying out, and then the mod thing was kind of taking off. The Jam, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have to reference the Jam. The Jam were incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard In the City and I just blown away by it.
Yeah.
But not just the music, by their image.
Yeah.
They weren't your typical punk band, even though our new wave band.
Yeah.
They were something different. They
Yeah.
had the sound, the Rickenbacker sound, the guitar sound,
Yeah.
similar to the Buzzcocks, actually, very
Yeah.
similar to the Buzzcocks. So I kind of grabbed onto that as well. But what really got me, I think, into the mod scene early was one of my friends in school's boyfriend was a mod, and he used to come up on his Vespa scooter and it'd be decked in lights and mirrors. And I just think, wow, look at
Yeah.
that! It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, that's it. So when I left school, '82, I got a job and I was a roofer. And yeah, I actually was a roofer. I was a roofer for 7 years.
Wow.
And my boss, I bought a scooter. My very first scooter was a Vespa 100.
Nice.
Now like gold dust. You can't get them anymore.
Yeah.
And I was going to work, and my boss said, "You're a mod, isn't you?" And yeah, he says, "You might like this," and he gave me one of the What Is Soul albums. Stax and Atlantic.
I do. Yeah.
That was it. That was it. I was hooked. That was what really got me into soul. The What Is Soul album.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that was the Motown Memories. You remember the Motown Memories?
Yes.
And they had a series as well. So it was all staples, but it was Wilson Pickett, Rita Franklin, Arthur Conley, Sam and Dave, all that kinds of standard Stax in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get enough of it. Anywhere I went, any record shop, I just bought it. Anything I saw with that label.
Yeah.
I saw a Stax label, I bought it.
Yeah.
Atlantic, I just bought it. And that kind of got me into the collecting side of things.
Yeah.
But I must say, I've always been a collector of objects.
Yes.
I actually collect coins and I collect stamps.
Oh,
I did collect stamps.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so it's interesting that a lot of people who collect other things as well.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I got into the collecting side of things. I say since then I was probably I was only 17 or 18, and I started buying records. And then I think, as someone mentioned, this is pre-internet, pre-anything, nothing actually. We were in Ireland, so we had nothing.
Yeah.
We knew about some of the mod things in London particularly. But we didn't have any. There was only a handful of us really at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was driving my scooter around, and I met a couple of guys from Dunleary, and they said, "Have you heard of a club called Bubbles? They play mod music on a Wednesday night." I'd never heard anything of it, so they took me under their wing. I went in, drove in. I was pretty nervous. I brought my ID with me. Went down the alley. I could hear the music coming from the basement, because it was a basement club, as you know, in Bear Lane. And I walked into that place, and it absolutely changed my life. The music coming out of it, I'd never heard anything like it before.
Yeah.
Yes, I heard Sam and Dave, and I heard Arthur Conley, Sweet Soul Music, and the standards. But there was other records that I'd never ever heard in my life. And I was there with a pen and paper up to the DJ notes in it. What's that called? What's that called?
Wow.
That's incredible. Where'd you get that record from?
Yeah.
And it was just literally information after information.
Yeah.
And it just took me I was just blown away by it.
Yeah.
And that really changed it. And I went every Wednesday. Hail, rain or snow, I went in, I drove my scooter, parked the scooter, and walked down and into Bubbles, and met a lot of like-minded friends.
Yeah.
That I still have today.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
I still know today. That's the incredible thing.
That's the beauty of this, isn't it? Can you remember a couple of the records that you first heard there, or that maybe you bought on the back of?
I can, and there's quite a few. One of them I have as my first record, but I go back to that.
We'll come back to that in a while.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Yeah. I think Joe Tech's Show Me was always a record that really got me.
Yeah.
I always remember hearing that record.
Yeah.
A couple of the instrumentals, like A Touch of Velvet, A Sting of Brass.
Yeah.
The instrumental. I'd never been in a place where people actually clapped to a song.
Yeah.
It was just not done. This is the 80s. It was new romantic. It was all just chart music. But this was, everybody did it. It was just like a show.
Yeah.
I just found that incredible.
Yeah.
The right track, Billy Butler, of course, as well.
Absolutely
incredible record. The hand clapping in it, just the atmosphere of it,
Yeah.
hearing it over a huge sound system.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Bubbles was in the basement, so it was a very low ceiling. So it was literally blasting out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible records. We're part in the Delrons, Panic, a couple of the girl records. And then a couple of, Rex Garvin and the Mighty Cravers, Sockatoon JB, which is
Yep.
interesting. I'd already heard that
Yeah.
because it was covered by Specials
It was on
in
the
more
second
Specials.
album, wasn't
It
it?
was
Yeah.
on the second album. So I was
Yeah.
like, wow, you know. And also, the great thing about Bubbles is they didn't just play soul music.
Yeah.
Because it was just soul at the time. There wasn't Northern soul. That was later on.
Yeah.
They played ska. So it was home from home. So you heard the beat, you heard the Specials, you heard Madness. So
Yeah.
happy days. It was a brilliant club.
Yeah.
That. The music was just incredible.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the three is, you know, the three staples of mod: the Small Faces, the Who, the Kinks.
Yeah.
And then 60s and everything else in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and which I still like today, and which I have most of it behind me here.
Yeah.
I've been collect, you know, because I collect anything really at this stage. It's across the board at this. My taste is kind of widened.
Yeah, but I think that's part of being a collector is the acquisition of information. So as you say, the writing down of things so you can go out and find them. But then also when we do collect, and I'm the same, although at the moment I'm not really allowed to collect anymore because my house is full of books and things. But I think what we do is we're always looking for something else to feed our curiosity. And so as you say, you will collect across the board. And we're talking today about soul records because that's really what the show is doing. But at the same time, I mean, it means such a big thing, soul, doesn't it? It's such a large word that there's so much room for taste and sort of chasing things and finding things and discovering things. I mean, it's just fascinating to also hear about this physical space where lots of people who still know each other and who I've been lucky enough to get to know, people like yourself, all first encountered each other. I mean, it's fascinating. So, I mean, talk to me a bit more about the community at the time, because as you say, if you were just kind of getting to know people, how did it kind of develop? Did you start going to other do's, or how did you get into sort of going around to other venues?
I suppose it was like a uniform. Being a mod was a uniform. And then, of course, the scooter was helpful. So you had transport.
Yeah.
So it was every Saturday into the coffee shop, check for records, check for clothes. You met like-minded people.
Yeah.
And you just kind of, that's how you gain friendship with people.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Ray O'Reilly. That's exactly how I met Ray O'Reilly. Just met him in the coffee shop, and he was into the records, and he was into the clothes, and still know each other to this day. So, you know, it's incredible. And also there was certain other clubs going at the time. There was an R&B club, which was, I think it was up Parnell Street.
Yeah.
The Ivy Rooms. So they were a small little pocket of mod clubs.
Yeah.
Outside of Bubbles, not many at the time, because Bubbles catered for everything, and because don't forget, in 1984 they had their first all nighter. It was the first all nighter ever in Ireland, and it was another all nighter from 8 till 8.
Okay.
It was on St. Patrick's weekend.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, that place, it was absolutely jammed.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. That sounds fascinating.
I mean, that was just incredible. I mean, it was the seating. You know, there was standing room only. The dance floor was jammed.
Yeah.
It was packed. It was like a sauna. Anyone will tell you went to Bubbles, it was like a sauna, because
Yeah.
they had neon lights on the ceiling that were quite low. So it got very, very hot, very, very quick.
Yeah.
But people, like in the UK, similar to the Twisted Wheel or Casino, they brought change of clothes with them.
Yes.
Which is, you know, and they wore clothes that were good for dancing.
Yeah.
Hence the Fred Perrys, hence the short sleeve shirts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's still today, that's the same. People wear stuff to dance. And we used to go around looking at shops and go, those shoes look good. I wonder are they good for dancing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that was the way it was. Or a shirt. Is that good for dancing? Yeah, a short sleeve shirt makes more sense than wearing a long sleeve, or a polo makes more sense than wearing a long sleeve polo, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I need to ask you while we're on the subject. You always light up any club I've been to with your dancing. When did you first discover that you could dance, and how did you develop? Because you have some very specific moves. I'm very, very curious, because it's a wonderful sight to see you in action, in full flight. So because for men dancing, it's always quite unusual, I think, in some aspects, isn't it? You know, so talk to me, if you don't mind, about your dancing.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, when they went to Bubbles first, they stood at the dance floor in awe of these dancers.
Yeah.
I think already Jimmy Mulvaney has been mentioned. I don't know if you've heard of Jimmy Mulvaney. Jimmy Mulvaney was a mod, but he went to the casino in the early days, in the last days before it closed.
Yeah.
So he came back and he was wearing his Fred Perry, but he also had his bags and he had his socks and he had his bowling shoes. But he was an incredible dancer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was backdrops and all, but don't forget it was a low ceiling, so you couldn't do that much. So it was like there was, yeah, it was quite. But yeah, so I think at that stage the mods were just it was just steps, and I just went,
Yes.
how do you learn those steps?
Yeah.
And the spins. So
Yeah.
just ended up doing it with the help of talcum powder.
And you've been doing it ever since, because one of the things that's fascinating is, and you've told me this before, you'll happily find a space to one side. Like when we're at D8, the dance floor gets really packed. You'll happily find a space for yourself where you can just kind of continue dancing. I mean, it's such a joyful expression of love and passion as well, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
it helps if you know the records as well, because you know the breaks.
That,
and you know it does help.
Yeah.
But it's nothing is better to hear something you don't know and be able to dance to it.
Yeah.
And then go up afterwards, because it's exhilarating. You go, what was that?
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, it's a great release, as anyone that dances knows.
Yeah.
Keeps you active, keep you going.
Certainly does. I mean, and also what I love about it is that you've been practicing these steps effectively for a long time. You've been working it's a craft like anything else, and it's part of the celebration of community as well, because you're still dancing with the same people that you got to know then. And also, and this is where I would like us to go next, how did you go from dancing and collecting to playing?
Okay. As you know, Bubbles was only around for a few years, and then after that, Fox and Pheasant was the big place.
Yes.
Cable Street.
Yes.
Joey Moore and all, they ran This Is It Soul Club. Now, This Is It Soul Club was a soul club. It wasn't a mod club. It was before a mod club could play anything.
Yeah.
Soul club is played soul music.
Yeah.
So This Is It. So I used to go to This Is It, and their music was just incredible.
Yeah.
But then with the mod scene, there was always all-dayers and stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a Pan Am. I know you were big into the scooter. So as I know, I had a scooter. So a lot of the scooter dudes would ask people to DJ.
Yeah.
And I was asked to DJ at one of the all-dayers.
Brilliant.
That was it. That was probably 84 probably.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe summer 84. And I DJ'd at the all-dayers. I brought my record box along. I only had a handful of records at the time. But I was collecting, because I was buying, and I was buying a lot of stuff for mail order from the UK.
Yeah.
From places like Soul Bowl Records, which was mentioned. The wonderful late John Anderson passed away last year.
Yeah.
He had incredible records. And then another good friend of mine, who's still a good friend of mine to this day, A.D. Pierce.
Yeah.
Silver Fox Records. They were known as Cotswold in the 80s.
Yes.
Cotswold Records.
Yeah, I've bought stuff from Silver Fox. Brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
A gentleman to deal with. And just his knowledge of music is incredible.
Yeah.
So people like that, of course, Pat Brady, John Manship. So I just started acquiring records, just buying them. And then the soul packs, the John Manship soul packs.
Yeah.
So let's just buying records. And also, we had a lot of markets at that time. So going through secondhand markets and shops and places like Max Records, which has to be mentioned, was a very influential place for a lot of us in the early days.
Where was that?
That was in Georgia Street Arcade in Dublin City.
Right.
That was a great place. You could dig for anything there, and you could find some nice records there.
Yeah.
So we just ended up playing at as I said, at the all-dayers. Oops. And I played at the all-dayers, and then someone said, well, would you play at one of our nights? And a man called Jimmy Green, and Jimmy Green needs to be mentioned, because Jimmy Green changed the whole genre of music, because he started playing 70s.
Okay.
Or anybody else did.
Okay.
He was playing the Philly sounds before anyone else was.
Yeah.
So he ran a club, and he asked me to DJ. And he was introducing me to the OJs, Harold Melvin, all that kind of stuff. So he had his whole perspective of music had just gone a different direction. Where most mods were stuck in, oh, that's disco.
Yes.
It was after 60, it was after 68, so that's disco.
Yeah.
But he said, no, it's just there's good music and there's bad music and there's good soul music and there's great music in the 70s being made.
yeah,
And so that got me into the 70s. So I started playing 70s,
yeah.
which was quite unusual for a mod at the time to be playing 70s. So I would
It's
have played a lot of 70s.
it's curious as well because nowadays those kind of distinctions just seem historical in some ways
Mm,
because I mean like it doesn't make any sense, I suppose, from a
no.
contemporary perspective, but at the time it would have been quite a big shift. It would almost be like Bob Dylan going electric or something, and that kind of strange move where were rooted and then someone saying, but this isn't disco, this is just, because really we're just talking about dance music as well, aren't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, that's it. It's just dance music. A discotheque was the place where music was played.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's what it was. It was a place where people danced. So, you know, then it became a genre in itself after Saturday Night Fever and all that kind of stuff, which wasn't really disco at all. Because before that, it was just R&B music.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it was R&B music that happened to be played in the discotheque.
Yeah. Look,
So
it's all together here
yeah,
now, isn't it? We can see the roots of everything and it all fits in sort of and interconnects with itself nicely now. And those distinctions, I think, I mean, you've been playing for years now. Do you sometimes decide to just play a 60s set or just play is the reason I'm asking is because even though those distinctions don't exist, it comes down to taste, doesn't it? Sort
yeah.
of sometimes people think, well, you know, I was talking to Joe and he just did a set which was just girl singers and things like
Mm.
that. So it's interesting to me to hear people like yourself talking about what you choose to play.
It's down to the different venues. If it's a mod club, I know what to play.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play 60s. I might
yeah,
play R&B.
yeah, yeah,
You know, if it's like D8, it's across the board. You can play anything,
yeah,
new and old,
yeah,
and that's you know, it's music across the board.
yeah,
So I think that's it. And also by looking at a crowd, you can know a crowd what they're into as well.
yeah.
I think as someone said, you can't go along with a record box of unknowns and just play them and expect people to dance. You have
No,
to put in the standards. You have to play the standards. And that was the great thing about when we set up What is Soul
yeah,
about 4 years ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. We wanted to do that. We wanted to introduce the person on the street to soul music, stuff
yeah,
that they knew, but also in between it, we would incorporate more rare records.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that, and I know DA is probably the same thing. You would play a lot of music that would people would know, but a lot of stuff people wouldn't know. But it's all about dancing.
The
If we can get
joy,
people to dance,
yeah, the joy of D8 has always been that we've just trusted people to bring their favorite music and play it for us. So that's why we've always encouraged people. I mean, you've played some glorious sets for us. We've always just encouraged people to play what they want because we're not going to impose and say, well, you can only play this. I mean,
mm,
so we get everything, as you know, from early stuff right up to, you know, if a house track fits at a particular moment, then that will fit. I mean, and
mm,
because again, soul is such a broad category. I mean,
mm,
it's a fascinating question though, isn't it? Because it is about knowing your audience, and a lot of the audiences that you're playing to you've known for years as well, haven't you? So
yeah, I have, yeah.
you've all grown up together. Does that put pressure on you sometimes?
It does actually. I think someone mentioned when you're DJing and there's someone on the same bill as you has the same record, and you know they're on before you.
Yeah,
So it's like they're going to play that record. That one's gone, and put that to the back of the box.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's the only thing. But yeah, it doesn't actually because a lot of us have similar records
yeah,
because as you said, we've been collecting for a long time. I mean, I know just a little story that you mentioned when Paul Mulholland was on. He mentioned the Paramount Four,
yeah.
and I actually was the person who was playing that record when he heard it, and that was in Cow City. and now we had a bit of a chat online today about it. You know, that record has gone crazy price. It's three figures. Where
Yeah,
when we bought it was only 10 quid.
yeah, yeah.
You know, but so it's just yeah. There's a lot of stories that interlink,
I
and
think so.
that's one
Yeah,
that always brings me back because he was actually blown away. He hadn't heard it in a long time.
yeah.
And then I played it at Power City, but he's oh, I remember I used to have that. I had that at home.
So then
That
you
does
run
that does
back.
happen as well.
Yeah, I think so. But then you see, that's the other thing about playing, isn't it? Because, you know, you can decide to play. I mean, and part of the fun of it is playing something which people haven't heard for a long
Mm,
time or
mm,
not playing a record sometimes. people know you've got a record, but as we've discussed with other people, you can't always find the time or the right place to play it. So you kind of wait till next time. So part of the story is also about people whose record collections and you know they might play that record, and then you're hoping that they will, but they don't. I mean, maybe what we might do then, Tony, is talk about your first record.
Okay, the very first record is going back to Bubbles, and
Perfect.
it is. I'm going to put the two of them up because I actually bought the two of them. One was on London and one's on Parkway, and
Oh,
it's
look at
Chubby
that.
Checker at the discotheque.
Fabulous.
I remember when I heard this first, I couldn't believe that it was Chubby Checker.
Yeah.
Because Chubby Checker is a twist. You know, he was known for his novelty records.
Yeah.
And I remember pestering Noel Sinnott at the time. What's that called? Because it was a big mod record at the time.
Yeah.
And I believe that it was actually a Twisted Wheel record in '68. So it was, you know, it had done quite done the rounds on the soul scene. But in Ireland, that was a new record. I mean, that was quite a new sound.
Yeah.
But it always reminds me of walking down the stairs into Bubbles, down the spiral staircase, and hearing it at the discotheque being played. And like, straight away out on the dance floor. And to this day, I'd still dance to it. And I would still play it.
That's what I was.
A great record.
That's what I was going to ask. A lot of times with these records that we hear way back in, would that still find a place in your box? And the answer is probably yes. When was the last time you played it out?
I think I played it out at one of the Soul Satisfaction dues.
Yes.
In the CIE hall.
Yes.
I think I might have played it at one of them.
Right. Okay. And go on.
It's such a great record because you hear that over just the start of it, the piano at the beginning.
Yeah.
It just draws you to the dance floor.
Yeah.
It's so good. And the incredible thing is it's not a typical Northern Soul or record because it's kind of a Latin tinge to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of got a Latin feel to it. It's kind of, you know, but it's very catchy and it's an incredible record. And the B-side's actually quite good as well. But I love it. And I remember just going back to a good friend of ours who passed away this year, as you know, Mark Byrne.
Yeah.
Mark loved that record, absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And he bought it before anybody did in Dublin anyway. He definitely had a copy. And I remember asking him to have a look at it on the Parkway label because I got it on London. I picked it up on London.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you can have a lend of it. Bring it home and listen to it." That's the kind of person Mark was.
Wow.
He actually lent me the record.
Okay.
Played it at home in my bedroom. And then a couple of weeks later, I just gave it back to him. And it always reminds me of Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well. No. Like he a record that he loved, but also it was a Bubbles record as well.
But you see, that's the thing, isn't it? And I know I say it every episode, but we can't escape the truth that it's objects that keep people together. And even when these people aren't with us any longer, it's the memory of that person. Like it's the memory of when you heard the record or when it was lent to you. And that's the beauty of this, because really all we're doing is following stories, aren't we? And we're just, and it's so evocative. It would be the great opening to a film of people coming down the stairs, because so many people describe coming into Bubbles and coming down the stairs and hearing the record or a record or the record they remember, because that journey, you would have done it hundreds of times, but for everybody who did it, it's unique for them, but also part of this collective memory now, isn't it? It's an extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary part of everybody's life, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It's like a piece of time.
Yeah.
But it's still like we were in our we were teenagers. You know, some of us are 15.
Yeah.
Some of us 13.
Yeah.
And here we are. We're still listening to the same records. That's incredible testament of a record.
I think it is. And that's also, I think, what makes this community that I've been very lucky to become sort of part of in the last few years, it's what makes it so special, because everybody is so accepting and everybody is so supportive of each other. So when we see people at a do, or when I go somewhere, or when people come to D8, it's just such a nice group of people. It's just, it sounds a bit silly to say, but it's something about people who've known each other a long time, have a lot of respect for each other, coming together every now and again and just really having a good time. Because that's the other thing you see with people. I mean, I see that in your dancing, I hear that in your sets. It's about having a good time. It's about celebrating these things, and it never ever leaves us, I don't think.
No, it's about being passionate as well, about passionate of the records and the music that you love. But not being stuck then. I mean, that's why my taste has definitely changed
Yes, yes,
now. I mean, like, as you know, I like gospel house as well. So there's a lot
yeah,
of soulful gospel and modern, and there's different genres I like as well.
yeah.
But it's just those records still just get you, and you can remember when you bought them as well.
Mm,
That's the thing. There's time and space, and and I just find that absolutely fascinating. It's the whole thing of collecting and owning something,
yeah,
and
yeah,
also the story behind who actually owned the record before you received it, before you bought it.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
as you know, most of these records were secondhand.
yeah,
We all bought our records from dealers, but they were, shipped from the States or
yeah.
whatever. You just love to know the history behind some of the records. That's why I love
Absolutely.
to see even writing on them. Some people say they
Yeah,
don't like to see writing on a label,
yeah,
but it's got, that's part of that record because there's the history behind that.
yeah, yeah. No,
Who
I'm the
actually
same.
held that beforehand?
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. And I've said this before. I love finding people who've written things in books. For someone in 1976, but names on records, which for a lot of people, as you say, is may lessen the value somewhat.
Mm,
I think that's just part of the history of it, because we are
mm,
talking about objects and we're talking about collecting and we're talking about rare as well. Some of the things that people collect are
mm.
incredibly rare, so they're
Yeah.
even more not valuable in a monetary sense, but valuable in an emotional sense. I'm sure you've waited a long time for a particular record, or have tried to find something and you spend a long time. So when you finally get it, it's not about the money. It's about the having finally acquired it. But I would like you to talk a little bit about your sort of your broader taste, because also I know you were involved in things like radio, weren't you, and things like that.
Yeah, we would have. Yeah, in the early days, Radio Dublin, myself and Ray O'Reilly, we did a soul. We were invited onto a soul show
Oh,
in the
brilliant!
in the in the early days of Radio Dublin.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, and we went in and we just bought our records along. It was mainly Motown
Yeah,
at the time, and we just would, as you know, it was a pirate station, but the pirate stations did a lot for the soul scene
yeah,
because they're the only ones who are actually willing to play the records and get you into
yes,
the stations and play them.
yeah,
And then I think Near FM has been mentioned as well. We did a soul show as well in Near FM for a while. That was playing Northern Soul, and I also did a gospel show on there as well,
yes,
in Near FM as well. So that was quite interesting. And I know Ray has some. He used to do Jazz FM, and Joe did for Jazz FM for a while. I think I was guests on Jazz a couple of times with Ray.
yeah,
We would have played a lot of soul music. It's just like this, having a chat and playing records
mm,
that we loved.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
do think it's very important that people realize that, excuse me, that pirate stations definitely did something for the soul scene.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's very important, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was a very important part of a cultural history as well.
Mm.
And as you say, I suppose those stations would be less inclined to just limit people. They would be far more about giving people like yourselves a chance to play stuff which you wouldn't have been able to play elsewhere potentially.
No, no, because in Ireland in the '80s, there was very little happening outside of the rock scene.
Yeah,
You tried to organize a do, or so you could put on a soul night. They just look at you. They didn't know what soul music was.
yeah, yeah,
And you mentioned Northern Soul, and they were completely screwed. Just I think 10 heads. They wouldn't have a clue.
yeah,
So a lot of the stations, the pirate stations, were bringing in a lot of black music,
yeah,
which hadn't been played on Irish radio.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
only a handful of radios, DJs actually played soul music. Tony Fenton is one that I know because he came to one of our clubs in the early days,
yeah,
and he was big into his soul music.
yeah,
But yet he was blown away by the records we were playing. He was asking us where we got them because
yeah,
he hadn't heard anything like it.
yeah,
But yeah, he was listening to Aretha and Otis and all that, which I still love.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they're great, great artists, incredible artists. But we were branching out into the rarer stuff, as you said.
That's the thing, though, and I was talking to another guest about this. Even if you think about someone like James Brown or Aretha Franklin, I
Mm,
mean, for most people, they only know 2 or 3 of their songs, but they've got such a rich catalogue that
yeah,
some of the things that, I mean, the flips of some of their singles or more obscure sides that they released, stunning stuff. But then, as you say, for everybody, this is an entry point. But then you go off and you start digging deeper, you start asking more questions, you start developing your own path. Maybe, and it's not a great segue, but maybe that might spin us round to your second record then. What have you got for us as your second,
Yeah, this
Tony?
second record is What Good Am I, Darryl Fletcher,
Oh,
on
okay.
Jacqueline Records.
Okay.
Absolute. If I was to say this is the epitome of Northern Soul,
Right.
if you were to get someone and say, "What's Northern Soul?" play them that record, and then ask them what did they think of it, because it's absolutely incredible. The
Yeah.
production on it is amazing. Considering Darryl Fletcher was only 12 or 13 at the time, he was only a child prodigy.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely incredible. The strings in it are amazing.
Yeah.
It goes off like a rocket.
Yeah.
From the minute you put the needle on the record, it literally.
Yeah.
And I still love it. It is a dancer's dream of a record.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a beautiful
As I
record.
said, I love to dance to it and I love to play it. It's
Well, look,
that's how good it is.
I think, you're absolutely right about the record. It just instantly transports you as well. When you hear it, you just go like that. And there's a real rush. And even thinking about it now, can you remember the first time you heard it? What made you want to get it?
I probably heard it. This Is It.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever played in Bubbles. It would have been after that.
Yeah.
And I think either someone in This Is It played it, and it just blew me away.
Yeah.
And then I heard a couple of all-nighters as well in the UK.
Yeah.
I think the 100 Club used to play it, and it just blew me away.
Yeah.
And I just had to get it. Just the strings in it, the way it just, the production in it is incredible. It's like,
yeah.
And the sound, and hearing it on the sound system, it's just brilliant.
I'm a sucker for strings. I always have been. And so I agree entirely. And when was the last time you played it out?
Probably at Pow City. It's always in my record box, and I'd always play it because it suits Pow City.
Yes.
Because it's 100 mile an hour up tempo stomper.
Yeah.
It just packs the floor.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, even to this day, it still packs the floor, and it's a very fast record, as you know. It's extremely fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what I love about it, the excitement and the passion of his voice. It's just incredible. The backing singers, the orchestra.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful record.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing about dancing to fast records is I think I always give it a go, but I think I often then step back and or just slow down a bit. But that's something else as well, isn't it? That there are always going to be records that everybody will dance to, and they're going to be incredibly familiar. But also, what I was going to ask you, because I know that you're a collector, there's a lot of modern soul records around, labels bringing stuff out, and you, I know, because I've seen you play, you happily have modern records, and I mean, Coal Mine or Big Crown and these kind of things. You'll happily include those in your sets and put them alongside something like Darryl Fletcher. Perhaps you might talk to me about contemporary soul music, I suppose.
Yeah, the new soul coming out of Coal Mine Records and Timian and all them, they're just great records, and they just fit the genre. They just fit in really well.
Yeah.
As you know, the last couple of years, it's kind of gone funk edged. There's kind of a funk edge to a lot of the scene.
Yeah.
It's particularly, in Manchester and then in Pow City as well. They would play more funky edged kind of records. So it kind of fits that kind of mood.
Yeah.
And those records are incredible. I mean, the Coal Mine label is just, and Cannonball as well. I have to mention
Cannonball, of course. Yes.
Incredible. I mean, just what the stuff that they're bringing out is incredible. Modern, gospel, funk. It's just so good, and it's good that it's on 45, so we can play it.
Yeah.
So the DJs can play it, which is great.
Yeah.
And as you know, Greg as well with the gospel as well. What he's inheriting is incredible as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, one big record for me last year, I think, was Bobby Rosa, which is just a stunning record. And, and there are lots of them. See, because this is what makes it interesting, is that we're talking about collecting, we're talking about a lifetime of collecting, but we're also talking about a music, I suppose, which is timeless in many ways, because you can put in a Timian record alongside Parkway or something, and it all fits nicely, because that's part of this continuation of dance music, I suppose, isn't it, really? And it adds to the thrill of collecting, that you can buy new stuff. And a lot of these new records, they're limited edition as well. A lot of the coal mine stuff and bits and pieces have short runs, and then they become quite collectible. It's a fascinating aspect, I think. And someone like yourself, who's been collecting since the 80s, to still have a willingness, I think, to always open your ears and listen to new things. I think that's what makes it really interesting.
Yeah, I think. I mean, also Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings definitely have to get a mention because they
Yes.
really brought it to the fore, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I mean, her sound, the sound she got, the big band sound that she
Yeah.
got,
Yeah.
and then everyone else has followed it.
Yeah.
And I just think it's incredible because it's good. And what I love about a lot of the artists is they're using original instruments
Yes.
from the 60s, which is great to get that sound. They're trying to
Yeah.
get that sound.
Yeah.
They're trying to get not a Motown sound, but their own kind of sound, that kind of deep soul sound, that
Yes.
Stax or Atlantic sound, which I
Yeah.
love, you know.
Yeah. But importantly, it's not a pastiche. It's
No.
genuine in its own right, and it stands the test alongside records. Because if you play a record and it doesn't fit, or it empties a dance floor, or the sound doesn't fit, because they're not novelty, they're not imitations of soul. It's just where the music has developed. And as you say, there's a beautiful authenticity to a lot of this stuff, and it is instruments, but also it's an aesthetic. It's a desire, I think, isn't it, to just keep making good music. And it doesn't always have to be danceable. There's some lovely, softer, slower stuff around as well, but it all fits nicely into this world that we have existed in, that has become a massive feature of a lot of people's lives since the origins in the 80s and bits and pieces. We haven't even talked about Ken's LPs and things like that, but I'm sure they were a massive
Kent, and
influence.
then Inferno as well, of course. You have to mention Inferno.
Yeah.
Goldmine
Yeah.
Records as well. There's a lot of stuff coming out in the 80s, especially
Yeah.
the Kent. Yeah, we have to mention Kent because Kent really got us all collecting.
Yeah.
You know, we heard a record on a Kent album, and we tried to get the single. We dig for the single, we find that single, and we play the single.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Tony, perhaps you might tell me about Cleethorpes, because I know that this is a big place for a lot of people from the Irish soul scene, a sort of an annual pilgrimage, I suppose. So perhaps you might talk to me about Cleethorpes.
Yeah, like Cleethorpes has been going for quite a while. It was going on in the early 2000s as well, but as I was, I had a young family at the time, I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
But Cleethorpes is a weekender. It's a 3-day weekender. Basically, it's a soul weekend, all dayers and all nighters. The last couple of years I've been able to go because my kids are now grown up, so I was well able to go.
Yeah.
It's incredible just to travel up to Cleethorpes. Cleethorpes is in the middle of nowhere. It's on the north. It's on I think it's on the west coast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the east coast actually.
Yeah.
Of the UK, of Lancashire, and it's just it's basically like a Butlins on soul.
Yeah.
That's how you explain it. You stay in a mobile home, and there's different events, but there's incredible DJs, and everyone on the soul scene from the UK, and Europe as well is usually in attendance. And the good thing about it is they get acts from the US. So over about 3 years ago, Maxine Brown played. She was amazing.
Yeah.
She just blew us away. Her records are, they're soul standards, but what she did, she was professional.
Yeah.
Look, I had seen quite a few different acts, but she was one of the professionals. She was just amazing. Now, I know some people don't like it, and I think Joe Moran said that it can be a bit karaoke. And I think he saw her in the early 2000s, and he thought she was amazing as well.
Yeah,
so, she's just a wonderful and a lovely woman as well. A lovely person.
Yeah.
So you actually get to rub shoulders with the acts that you know and love.
It must be thrilling for the acts as well to know that there are people who still adore their music. Because I mean, some of these are singles we're talking about from the 60s, and things like this. So to actually go somewhere and see so many people still enjoying this music must be amazing for them. But also, interestingly for you, it's a community, because a group of you go, don't you, or have gone?
Yeah, there's probably 7, 8 of us maybe. Myself, Paul, the two Pauls.
Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah.
Tomo and Lindo Dorn.
Yeah.
There's a good few of us, and we all meet up in the airports, and we fly over, fly to Manchester, then get the train up
Yeah.
directly up to Cleethorpes. This is the last stop on the train, so and then we have a mobile home, and then there's a soul night that night. Friday night there's an all nighter.
Yeah.
And then you come home, get a bit of shut eye, a bit of a rest, get something to eat,
Yeah.
and back on Saturday night, and there's an all nighter, another all nighter.
Wow. There's always a dance competition as well, isn't there? And that kind
there
of.
used to be, yeah. There was when I went there originally, there was a dance competition on the Friday night.
Yeah.
Which was a bit. It was interesting, let's say, but you were so tired from the travel. You were absolutely exhausted from the travel.
Yeah.
We've had our hiccups as well on the train as well, where the train is broken down in Stockport, and we all had to get off and stuff.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Manchester.
Are there any records that for you are synonymous with Cleethorpes? Perhaps the first time you heard them, or records that you always, when you hear them, make you think of Cleethorpes? Are there any?
Yeah, particularly on the modern scene, the modern soul room in Cleethorpes, it has to be experienced. I think that's what I can say. It is an experience in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, the records that they were playing, King Tut, You Got Me Hung Up, stuff, really incredible modern soul records.
Yeah.
Even down to, funky kind of gospel stuff they play as well.
Yeah.
Some really nice records that just remind me of Cleethorpes.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the modern room, particularly in the modern room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other one I can think of. Thelma Hughes, of course. Thelma Houston, should say.
Yeah.
Saturday night, that kind of Sunday morning. That's a huge record, and a huge modern record in Cleethorpes. Yeah. It's like an anthem. It is basically an anthem.
Yeah. No, it is definitely.
The main room, Ernie and Ed, Indication. I think I heard that play. I think, I heard that 3 or 4 in the morning at one of the all-nighters, and it just blew the socks off me. Thought, what is this?
Yeah.
And I managed to pick it up there a couple of years ago. It was released on J-Boy in the 70s. It was only released in the UK.
Yeah.
So I managed to pick it up.
Wow.
I played it as well.
Yeah.
I actually played it here from the attic about 2 months ago. As part of the Soul Weekender for Soul
that's
Satisfaction.
Right.
Yeah, I actually played it.
What's it like playing over Facebook? What's it like?
Yeah, it's not the same. I know I think it's become top heavy at the moment. There's so many people doing it.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it was a novelty, but now I think it's kind of lost it. I think people want to get out and back on the dance floor. They want to get out. They don't want to be stuck in the room. They do.
Also, Facebook doesn't like it anyway, does it? Facebook is always blocking or muting or...
They're muting, because of Warner Chappell and copyright and all that nonsense. And, which is crazy, because you're just playing records for friends. You're not selling anything or anything, So.
No, I suppose. I mean, maybe then that's the segue. What's your third record, Tony? And
the third record, is... It's the Tangiers.
Oh, lovely.
My Heart and Soul Be Free on OK.
Lovely.
Love this label. Love everything about it.
Yeah.
OK, Chicago Soul.
Yeah.
Just amazing. The quality of records on this label.
No, fabulous label. Definitely.
Absolutely blows you away. But this song particularly, if there's a funeral song, this would be it for me.
Wow. Okay. It means that much to you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's got everything. It just oozes soul music. It's not it's a mid-tempo. I'd always use it as an ender.
Yeah.
And I have played it as an ender many, many times.
Yeah.
But it's and yet the B-side is an absolute belter of a record. What's the use of trying?
Yeah.
And I remember it when I picked it up first, that's the side that was played.
Yeah.
Everybody played that side because that was the record everyone wanted to dance to. But then as people get older and the things become more mellow, the A side became the standard side. And it's one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah.
I've been asked to sell it many, many times, and I won't part with it because it's just part of me. I love it.
Yeah. No, it's a magnificent thing. It's a magnificent record. I can understand its place for you as an ender. I can understand it being a funeral song. It's hard to describe how, even just by looking at the record label and seeing those 4 letters, it's so evocative, and it's such a beautiful design. I mean, it's just part of what makes collecting so lovely. the actual design of the labels, the lettering. I'm sure that's part of the thrill for you as well. But as a record, it's hard to describe, I suppose, exactly how interesting it is, because, as you say, for a lot of people, it would have been about the other side, and then it's. But there's a lesson here, isn't there? There's a lesson that we keep learning, which is just turn your records over, you know, and
Yeah,
which is interesting because for years you might have, and most of the time you buy a record for one side, don't you?
yeah, yeah. Because it's a popular side, so people are dancing to it.
Yeah,
Good example is Darrell Banks. You know, everybody's playing "Open the Door to Your Heart." That didn't get played because that was the slower side
yeah,
when people bought it first.
yeah.
You know, it was the other side. It was the song that everybody wanted to hear. You know,
That's right.
and that so it's like, and I think that's the same with the Tangiers, and a lot of records are like that.
Yeah.
Some really good B sides that never get played until someone puts it on a link and they go, "Oh, that's the B side of so and so so and so," and you go, "What? I never knew that.
That's
I have that record."
That's the thing, isn't it? It
Yeah,
takes someone else to remind you actually that this is your record, and then you think, but
yeah,
I've had that years, and then I never play that, and then so I just think it's part of what makes the mystique of collecting amazing as well. That it's about discovery. I mean,
mm,
you're still collecting now. I'm sure there are things you've been after for a while. I'm sure there are things you're going to uncover going forward, because that's part of the impulse, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
going back to your earliest impulse, it's like being a detective, writing down the clues and then following them, and
mm,
it's part of the thrill, I think, and that's why it's been a real thrill listening to you today, Tony, because we've only really scratched the surface, and I'm very keen to kind of, hopefully we'll have you back on the show at some stage, because I'd be very interested to hear more about what you're talking. But also, for anybody watching, if you have any thoughts on Tony's choices, it would be really interesting to see if you left them in the comments below. And then becomes part of the story. Because for now, Tony, I'm just going to say it's been a real pleasure having you on In the Record Room. I've loved listening to your stories. I really look forward to the day that we can actually be in the same room together dancing, because that won't be a day too soon. But until then, Tony Hanlon, thank you very much for being in the record room.
Barry, thanks very much. It's an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see each other not virtually, but on a natural basis on a dance floor in the near future.
Tony, I can't wait. Thank you very much.